The Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, the Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to The Extra Point with Ryan Justice.
And I'd say one of the biggest issues that, and I probably speak for a lot of teams, not only the Houston Texans, but I think that's all teams ask for is consistency from the league. And I'd say in this situation, I mean, quite frankly, there's no consistency at all relative to the level of discipline that's been handed down. So when you go back, let's look at this season. Okay, we had multiple situations, multiple examples. All right, 2 really good players, I would say. Branch ejected against Green Bay, right? Plays the next week against us. Okay, Derwin ejected, all right, got suspended for 1 game. And Derwin's a great player, and Derwin's had some other situations that have come up. And I'd say even going back here, a player that we know well organizationally here, Kareem Jackson. Kareem's a good player. Was ejected, fined, ejected, fined, ejected, and then suspended after 3 games. So we're going to say Azeez Al-Shaair, who nobody embodies our program more than Azeez, what he's about, what he's been through. You all know his story. There's not a more selfless individual, more about the team, who's earned the respects, that represents everything that we want this program to be about. I mean, this morning he was at a United Way event. So we're talking about some of the commentary that has been made about his character, about the person that he is, about what his intentions are, from people that, quite frankly, don't know anything about Azeez Al-Shaair, okay? And if for the league to make some of the commentary that they made about lack of sportsmanship, lack of coachability, lack of paying attention to the rules, quite frankly, it's embarrassing. So I think the big thing from and talking about a player who's never been suspended, never been ejected. So now we're saying that he's going to be suspended for 3 games. So look, it is what it is. I think the big thing from our standpoint, and all teams want this, is just some level of consistency. And we've talked to the league, quite frankly, but we don't have a good explanation. D'Amico talked to them yesterday. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure Azeez will go through whatever process he's going to go through, and then we'll deal with it accordingly. But I think what we take umbrage is just the picture that's been painted about Azeez, his intentions, who he is as a person. I mean, quite frankly, it's bullshit. And it's unfair to the individual. It's unfair to the organization. I mean, we love everything about Azeez Al-Shaair, what he means to this team, what he brings to this team. He was elected a captain after being here for 4 months. So, again, like, we have a lot of respect for our opponents. We have a lot of respect for other teams in this league. We want to do things the right way. I think D'Amico's explanation about the situation from a defensive perspective yesterday, well, quite frankly, was spot on. You know, it's a tough situation. Again, it's an unfortunate play. And again, going back to the first thing I said, the most important thing is the health and safety of our players. And I'd say the health and well-being of Trevor. And, you know, hopefully Trevor's going to be okay. But to speak on Azeez's intentionality about what he intended to do, some of the comments that have been made, quite frankly, it's embarrassing. So, like, we're going to support Azeez. We love everything about him. We're glad he's a part of this team. So I just wanted to I'm sure I was going to get asked about it. So I figured I might as well address it ahead of time. So, and then at some point we could probably talk about football, which is what everybody's here to do. So,
Boy, oh boy. I have never seen General Manager Nick Caserio that fired up. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I mean, look, that's obviously the hottest topic in the league this week. For those of you that missed it, first off, welcome to the Extra Point. We're glad to be back after a week off for Thanksgiving. We're glad to be back. Hope you guys all had safe Thanksgiving. I had a busy one. I was at the Thanksgiving game, Dallas and the Giants, on the sideline with Tom Rinaldi. If you didn't see him, my ass actually made TV when they were focusing on Graham Gano. First off, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notifications. Get notified every Tuesday when we are on at 8:30. But yeah, that was probably the most fired up I've ever seen Texans GM Nick Caserio. And this has been such a, when you go and think about it, and all the people that are speaking out about this, I know people want to focus on just the hit and just the suspension, but this highlights so much more that is going on in the league. And the fact that, we'll go with the suspension first. Azeez Al-Shire, Texans middle linebacker, suspended for 3 games for the hit on Trevor Lawrence. If you guys want to see the hit, look it up. It's all over TV right now. It's all anyone is talking about. But he was suspended for that hit. I think he wouldn't have gotten as big of a suspension had it not been for everything that happened afterwards. I mean, we both are familiar with this player. He was on the Niners when D'Amico Ryans was defensive coordinator. He wanted to come to the Texans last year, just cap space couldn't make it happen. And he finally gets to the Texans this year. And if you've never seen Aziz's game, he's a physical player. He's a very aggressive, physical. He's not going to back down from anybody. He's going to be in your face. And if you come at him, he's going to come at you just as hard. That's the type of guy that if you talk to 90% of the NFL defensive coordinators right now, they're going to tell you that's the type of guy they want as the quarterback of their defense. And the suspension, I think I can live with. And for those of you who don't see it, I just saw it from Aaron Wilson, who covers the NFL. The appeal was denied. He is serving all 3 games. He is getting the fine. So he is serving all 3 games. But again, I want to get your thoughts on the hit and the suspension before we kind of go on to the bigger picture with everything this has brought up.
Yeah, I think I think we've seen more intentional hits get a lot less. I agree. I think the consistency of where this is coming from. I think you have to take the whole thing into consideration. I think we'll talk about more of that in a minute. But I think the hit to me, I mean, that's a pretty solid football hit. It's not like he was intentionally trying to go for his head. With Trevor Lawrence sliding as late as he did, his body had nowhere to go but to pop him off the chest and then pop up and hit him in the head. But I think probably everything after definitely didn't help his case in getting that suspension. I think 3 games for any of it is a lot. A game, sure, I kind of get that, but I think more than just the hit itself, it's everything that else, like you said, that went into it that probably got him that. But I think the hit itself, I mean, you start taking off. I'm in the camp of it's your open game, and if you don't go after that, it happened. Especially if you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, right? When he takes off, a lot of guys let up early, and he gets 2, 3, 4, 5 more yards because the defense let up. So if you're going to slide late, man, good luck to you. I mean, that's just it. If you're going to be in the open field and slide late, you're going to have guys who are going to hit you. And that sometimes, that's just the consequence of you trying to get some extra yardage.
Yeah, and they've said it for years that defenders are put in such no-win situations when it comes to hits like this because the protections of the quarterback and the fact that you do have guys. I'm not, trying to victim blame or anything, I guess, with Trevor Lawrence. But you have guys who are actively exploiting that rule. I just saw another video pop up of Josh Allen doing it in the wild card last year against Pittsburgh. There's been multiple videos of Patrick Mahomes doing it. And this was a designed run. It wasn't like Trevor Lawrence took off scrambling. No, this was a designed run. Alshire picks him up out of the almost out of the secondary and meets him at the first down line. Trevor Lawrence, Mark Schlereth broke it down beautifully. Lawrence didn't even start to slide. He was still at the top of the numbers when Alshire was getting ready to tackle him, and he still hadn't slid. And we've seen it before. Guys have done this to try and draw this penalty. Even if it's just a tap, even if it's guys who can adjust or have been able to make the adjustment. And whether it's pushing the guy off or some sort of contact to the head is made with their hands, they've been able to draw this penalty. We've seen guys get barely tapped and be looking for this penalty.
I mean, if you're going to take off running, you should be treated as a runner. You know, as a running back. You know, again, once you take off, once you're out of the pocket, once you're past the line of scrimmage, like you are now taking it all into your own hands. And if you see a guy like, Azeez Al-Shaair coming at you, get down. Whether you get the first down or not, he's going to hit you. You just know he's going to hit you. You know, any of those guys, if Fred Warner, anyone who sees you open field like that, you're a dead man. Yeah. So either get down early, start running to the side. Like you see that, you make a left and you start running to the sideline, so you don't get hit. Anything. But yeah, I mean, once are we going to say the same? Would we say the same thing if it was Derrick Henry? No. You tuck the ball and get hit and take it. I think, once you're a quarterback and you start running, you're anybody else.
I mean, we've watched Josh Allen truck guys before.
Yeah.
Running backs, it's not as bad anymore because running backs were getting hit with the lowering of the helmet for a while there. But, we've seen running backs absolutely take out defenders and walk away scot-free until they got that rule change. But, it's like Caserio said, and several people have been kind of highlighting it. The league has been so subjective about handing out punishments for this. And I think the only reason that this punishment was so severe, I think 2 games would have been the normal suspension for everything that happened afterwards. But I think the reason the league went 3 is because of the reaction to this hit. Is because of the reaction and all the things that social media said and all the pearl clutching about this hit when, again, guys, you had Kareem Jackson who got ejected multiple games within a season, never got suspended. Derwin James got ejected and was back the next week. That's a very big issue, I think, is the consistency of how they are enforcing this not just the penalty, but enforcing the punishment. When I haven't seen one guy get flagged in a game that I've watched. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen one guy in a game get flagged for the hip drop tackle. Mm-hmm. And in that same game that some people are siding with Azeez Al-Shaair and the Caleb Williams hit on the sideline where he did throw a punch, like I'm not going to lie, like that is something the league should have looked at, is the punch he threw on the sideline. But people wanted to throw in the hit against Caleb Williams when he was in bounds as a runner. But, there was a hip drop tackle in that game that took out our starting running back for 5 weeks, and there was no flag. It was a clear hit. It was the clearest example of a hip drop tackle that I think I'd ever seen since they put out what they were going to call, and it was not called. The guy was fined after the fact, but that's not going to fix the fact that Mixon had a messed up ankle. And people get up in arms about they've zaprudered this thing so many times. People want to get up in arms about the forearms. Well, I feel like the forearms would have, if Azeez Al-Shaair throwing up those forearms and putting them right into Trevor Lawrence's shoulders, saved Lawrence from an even worse injury.
Oh, for sure.
That'd have been, if he'd have hit Aziz Al-Shire's shoulder, or who knows, if he'd have gone in head first, that could have been career ending.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
but in terms of the bigger picture, you've had guys like Mark Schlereth who have said, flag the quarterbacks for the fake slide. Two days after Kenny Pickett first did it in college, it was banned.
Mm-hmm.
And people wanted to get upset about that. Oh, it's no fun. The NCAA is This is why. This is why that needs to be banned. And if a quarterback looks like he's going to initiate a fake slide, 15-yard penalty. I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm.
They want to get on all the defenders for putting receivers in bad situations. It needs to come back on the quarterbacks a little bit too.
Well, especially on a design play like that. Again, if he's scrambling, he's just trying to make, something out of nothing. Okay, he probably should do that. But this was the design thing. He could have done a million things. They could have come up with a million different, ways to run this, but they chose that, and those are the consequences, man. It just seems weird to me that we're going to punish, the defense so much. At this point, sometimes you feel like, why don't we just have offenses out there? You want to see 1,000-point game. We have to do
Big 12
something.
football.
I mean, we have to do something. Otherwise, what's the point? It comes down to, I understand that your quarterback's your moneymaker. Then come up with a design play to protect your moneymaker. That's on the Jags. That's on the Jags for coming up with a bad play and leaving him out there, and not doing something to protect him down the field to take a hit like that.
Or maybe instead of encouraging the slide, take the knee. If you see he's coming, take the knee.
Mm-hmm.
I get, it's probably easier said than done to stop, but these guys stop on a dime on that turf all the time. Take a knee. If you see he's coming and he's loading up, take the knee.
Yeah, again, he could, at that point, there was, before he started slide, if he started to slide sooner, he could have backed off. He could have maybe, rolled off somewhere. But again, he doesn't think at this point we're playing a game of chicken.
Yeah.
You're playing a game of chicken and you lost. That's not on who's that on,
Yeah.
Again, we every commentator, everyone wants to talk about, we need to become gritty, hard-hitting football again. They've just gotten too soft, and when you see it happen, they're like, well, that's too rough.
And
that's too sad.
Or you get guys like Daryl Johnson in the game who just would not let it go. He went on for almost an entire quarter about that hit, and he just would not let it go. And I think, a lot of people were kind of piling on the Texans about defending Al-Shire. They know the hit was bad. They know it was an illegal hit. Emmanuel Acho had a really good explanation of it. It was an illegal hit, no doubt about it. It was an illegal hit. It was not a dirty hit because he wasn't leading with the crown of his helmet. In fact, again, I could argue that him throwing those forearms out prevented a much bigger injury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that he hits him with his shoulder, or somehow their heads collide, both of their necks are done.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking Kevin Everett, Ryan Shazier type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
If he'd have hit him with the helmet. So again, that's probably the biggest thing that made me that got under my skin. One of the biggest things. The other one I'm about to talk about. What is just the pearl clutching about it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Kiko Alonso. You had Vontez Burfict, who was making plans for suspensions, setting aside money for fines because he's like, I am going to be a headhunter.
Mm-hmm.
John, and this one gets me because the NFL executive, one of the NFL executives of football operations, John Runyon, who was one of the guys that helped, I guess, craft together this punishment, said this in the statement, the official statement by the NFL. If you read the full statement, everything before this paragraph is fine. This is where I feel like it was unnecessary. and this is what I really feel like got under Nick Casario's skin and got him fired up was this wording. Your lack of sportsmanship and respect for the game of football and all those who play, coach, and enjoy watching it, it is troubling and does not reflect the core values of the NFL. Your continued disregard for NFL playing rules puts health and safety of both you and your opponents in jeopardy and will not be tolerated. This is coming from a guy who launched himself over a pile head first into another guy's face
Mm-hmm.
and knocked him out cold. I
Yep.
mean, he was out.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to dress down Aziz Al-Shire for making a play like that when he did something that was straight out of NFL blitz.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, if you look at it, if you watch that hit, he's not going straight for Lawrence's head.
Mm-mm.
His arm comes across, like his arm hits his shoulder and comes across high on the chest, and then as Lawrence is falling, he goes across his face. But his hand is on that shoulder going across, the top of his chest because he has nowhere else to go. But he's doing his best to not kill Trevor Lawrence in that. He's not, again, watching it, I never saw malicious intent, like, your example of, I'm just going to throw myself over these guys to hit this guy on purpose, when the play is obviously done. And, so it's not like it's, I don't know, man, it's a ridiculous thing. Now, again, all the scuttlebutt and the fight afterwards and everyone pulling on each other. Okay, cool. I get that. But the actual hit, man, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah. And now again, for the previous stuff, of course, yeah, you cite, you can't really argue against throwing a hook on the sideline in the Chicago Bears game unless you're like, okay, what are you going to do surrounded by a bunch of guys, who are not happy. The one that is pretty egregious was the one that happened last week where he popped Tony Pollard on the bench. That one, okay, yeah, you can't, you have to do some gymnastics to defend that one. But again, I don't think that warranted 3 games, especially coming from a guy like John Runyon, who in 2006 was voted the league's most dirtiest player.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll continue to monitor the fallout from this. I did not expect that to be the biggest story that we had. Yeah. I'm going to get to the story that I thought was going to be the biggest story. And that was on Friday, Black Friday as it is. The Bears fired Matt Eberfluss after one of the most baffling 2-minute drills I think I've ever seen. For those of you who didn't, For those of
wild.
For those of you who didn't see it, the Bears were driving. They were down by 3. They were actually coming back on the Lions after the Lions had momentum for most of the game. They drive down. They are within field goal range. A couple penalties happen. And I believe they run a play with a running clock at about 46 seconds left. Mm-hmm. They didn't snap the ball until 5 seconds left within field goal range, and they throw an incomplete pass to lose the game.
Yep.
I'm still scratching my head about, and I would have had him if he hadn't gotten fired. This would have been Factory of Sadness this week. I got another one for Factory of Sadness, but this deserved its own kind of wing. There was no one else left to fire. Matt Eberfluss had gotten rid of all of his cover, and he was the only guy left standing.
They still say he's still standing out there in Detroit waiting to call that timeout. Still, right? He's to this day he's still out there waiting.
He had a timeout
for the perfect time to just go. For the love of God, timeout. And again, you watch it. You watch how he just looks so dumbfounded on the sideline. The entire 40 seconds, Caleb Williams is trying to get something going, trying to figure out. He's in pure panic. Whether he realizes they have a timeout or not. Or him trying to get figure out a play to get off, trying to get communication. He's in pure fluster mode, trying to win this thing, and Eberfluss is just waiting, just sitting there. I mean, again, a coordinator, anyone should, the kicker, the ball boy, someone should have called a timeout. Anybody who had half a brain on that sideline should have, again, at that point, beg for forgiveness, afterwards, then ask for permission. Just someone should have called a timeout and give
He
him a
was still had
second.
a job.
Yeah, anybody could have helped him out, and no, but yeah, it's a mysterious thing on why that happened.
Yeah, and the Bears have been a conundrum all year because you see what they could be at times, especially this last. They had the slump there, kind of into last month, October into last month, but Caleb Williams, ever since they fired Luke Getsy, had started to play a lot better. It started to look like it was beginning to click for him. The offense was looking, it wasn't like a drastic turnaround, but they were looking a lot better. I mean,
they looked like they were playing. Looked like they were playing towards Caleb Williams' style of play, not trying to force Caleb Williams into what they wanted him to be. They looked like they were trying to be more, hey, this is what Caleb Williams is, and let's lean into that more to be more productive for him. But yeah, they a real failure on this point.
I mean, he was the highest passer in the game, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean that's what every coach should do. Play to their, especially with a rookie, play to their strengths. Quit trying to force them to do things they're not ready to do yet. And I mean, he would have had probably one of the better game winning drives that I had seen had Eberfluss not messed that up. That was worse than Brandon Staley not going for the tie to put both teams in the playoffs a couple years ago. That was worse.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, Bears will be looking for a new head coach, which some people thought they were going to anyway. It's the first time the Bears have ever fired a coach in season. So, in the 100 years or so that they have been around, never fired a coach in season. Going on to our next hot topic, the Chiefs clinch a playoff spot. The Bills clinch the division. They're the only two teams to have a playoff spot right now. Two of the earliest teams to ever clinch a playoff spot. And these are the top two seeds right now in the AFC. The Bills are hot, and the Chiefs, to me, kind of look like they're on the ropes.
I mean, Chiefs are in pure survival mode. If anyone caught the game on Friday, again, weird to see a game on Friday. It felt like a long week with football. 3 games on Thursday, Friday, and then, on Sunday, if you watch college, Saturday, just a lot of football. But yeah, you watch the end of that game and watch the Chiefs. I mean, they are lucky. They're out on their feet, but they're against the ropes, so they're still standing somehow.
Yeah.
They shouldn't. The knockout should have happened, but they're still balanced, but they're not looking great. But on the other side of that, I don't know if these Bills are on fire. I guess Josh Allen, all he needed to do is get engaged, and that's the motivation for you. But man, yeah, they are firing, and they're tough. They're gonna be tough to beat right now.
Yeah, and I'm glad we did earlier in the season with the Texans.
I mean, again, Josh Allen is, not only on the same play, he's throwing and, scoring a touchdown. So, crap, man. What can't he do?
He looked, the best way I can describe it, he looks like he's been unlocked.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, he divorced Stephon Diggs and got engaged to whatever her name was. And I mean, he is. I didn't think this Bill, I figured the Bills would win the division, but I didn't think this is the Bills team that we would be getting this year. And he looked great. He looked great in the snow. He didn't. Say what you want about the snow. God knows that has been a very big discussion in my circles this week. But say what you want about the snow. Like, Josh Allen had a great game, and he didn't throw for a whole bunch of yardage, but he called a great game. The Bills were running really well. They were, again, they were just, they're hot right now. And I want to see if it carries over to the playoffs, because we know how they can be in the playoffs sometimes. Josh Allen has a history of blowing into the playoffs. So
I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago with Josh Allen. Again, I think this late in the season, this is the healthiest we've ever seen Josh Allen. Because usually by this point, he is beat up.
yep.
And he's looking rough for this playoff, for down to this playoff run. And by the time we get the playoffs, he's, on one leg and, can barely throw, but he's going to, muscle it through. But I think, if he can continue this path, especially already win the division, I think, maybe the weight on his shoulders doesn't have to be as much trying to get in there and can play smarter, and be more healthy than we've ever seen him to start a playoff run.
And they hung one on the Chiefs. So that's going to help them out a lot. Well, that'll do it for Hot Topics. Let's get into these game reactions. We started on Thanksgiving. Just talked about this, but we didn't really go. We've only talked about one aspect of it. We started off our Thanksgiving Day with the Bears and the Lions. The Bears jumped out to it was 20-0 at half. And Jared Goff was throwing it all around. You had the Lions offense just flying all over the field. The Bears really couldn't get their feet underneath them to get this game going. And then I will give them this. Thomas Brown made some good second half adjustments because they came alive. They came alive in that second half. Got a touchdown in the third quarter, and then they had 13 in the fourth. A lot of people are talking about the end of that game, but again, I want to highlight just how this Bears team was enduring and fighting, punching back against the Lions in that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you let them score 16 in the first half, and then you only hold them to 7 points in the second. Which is great for a team that is relentless for never taking their foot off the gas. To be able to hold Detroit down to 7 in the second half and then start to make that comeback, man, that really says something about the will of the Bears and what, like you said, the potential they have, and what they could do. So I think great on them for being able to stay that close for a team that has been dominant in so many games this season, and being relentless.
One of the things I think that I really enjoyed seeing from the Bears was the fact that they got both DJ Moore and Keenan Allen going at the same time. And that's what I think a lot of people wanted to see from this Bears team. DJ Moore had 8 catches for 97 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 5 for 73 and 2 TDs. And they were both averaging, DJ Moore had 12 yards a catch. Keenan Allen had 15 yards a catch, if you round up. So, that offense, you saw what this offense could be if they started clicking, if they started getting it going. One thing that's kind of stifled him is they haven't been able to get DeAndre Swift going on the ground. And I think that could have helped them out a little bit, in terms of controlling the ball a little bit better. But yeah, this Bears team was being held back by the coaching staff. And I saw something, I believe it was Trubisky the year they drafted Trubisky, John Fox got fired. And then the year they drafted Justin Fields, I can't remember who their coach was prior to that. He got fired. And now the year they draft Caleb, Eberfluss is gone. So when we get to turn our eye towards the offseason, I want to see if Ryan Poles stays, because he's been a guy that's kind of been sticky is the best word I can give it to him. Flip over to the Lions. I mean, it's just more of the same from the Lions. They endure. David Montgomery had 21 carries. He had 88 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a good game. You're seeing just how versatile this team can be and all the different ways that they can beat you.
Yeah, the fact that we both they didn't have a Montgomery and Gibbs didn't have a running touchdown. That's kind of surprising because those guys have been able to, especially there in the short game, been able to punch those things in. So that's kind of different for them. But yeah, I mean the Lions looked as especially in that first half, as fire as ever. They're the team to beat in the NFC. they're coming for you. It's the best start they've ever had um, in franchise history. Especially 10 in a row now. Like, man, there's nothing those guys are right now. Or seems like nothing's gonna be able to stop them.
I like their 11-1 more than I do the Chiefs because they feel like this feels like an 11-1 team. This
They,
isn't
yeah, it's
this
not a team that has barely kept those wins up. It's not a team that's like scraped by. This game was close, obviously in the last seconds, but again, for the most part, when they haven't been behind very often.
no.
And the games that they have been, they've shown the heart to get ahead and to fight back. So this definitely a more dynamic team at 11-1 than the Chiefs.
And they've been able to keep the pressure going.
Mm-hmm.
This week they got the Packers, or not the Packers. Yeah, this week they got the Packers at home. That's a big game in that division. So I'm definitely interested in that one. We move on to the West. We go to the Cardinals and the Vikings. This was an interesting game because back and forth. I don't feel like both teams played their best. Sam Darnold had a pretty decent game, 2 touchdowns, 235 yards. They did get to Kyler Murray quite a bit. He had 2 interceptions on the day. Back and forth game though, and to me, it just really kind of showcased the bit of grittiness I'm seeing out of this Cardinals team, even though they came up short.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of seen it, all season. I think since the first game when they played the Bills to now that, they're going to be in it. Whether they win or lose, this team is the Cardinals are definitely going to be gritty, and they're trying to keep it very competitive and try to stay in these things. Then you have the Vikings that the last couple of games haven't looked. They just kind of haven't looked so hot. They've come they made it out of this one. But to start off the way they did, we've kind of been when were they going to turn back into a pumpkin? Is that happening? Is it coming close? We're kind of seeing it. Yeah, they've won, but the last couple have been pretty close. So we'll see what happens with this Vikings team.
Yeah, they're 10-2. Vikings have 5 in a row, and some of those have been shaky though. I'm looking at, like I said, Darnold had a good game, 2 touchdowns, but he had 5 sacks. He's been getting beat up a little bit. I think teams are kind of looking to. They're kind of starting to figure out. Okay, hey, Sam Darnold is still Sam Darnold in some ways. He has got a better supporting cast. Justin Jefferson, he had 99 yards, no touchdown. I needed that, but I would have made last night a lot less stressful for me. Which we'll get to that roller coaster here in a second. But I mean, to me, I look at this. They didn't really get much going in the run game. 68 total yards, no touchdowns, on 15 carries, averaging 4.5 between 4 guys. And that run game with Aaron Jones has really taken a lot of pressure off of Sam Darnold this season. And I feel like, the more you put on Sam Darnold, the better chance you have of beating the Vikings.
I think there were definitely a few times when, Darnold had to like scramble and get out of the pocket, and he looked very panicked. There didn't seem like he had any kind of calm about him. Anytime, I saw him run out, I never saw any kind of like calm, like, okay, I got this, I can find the play. It was, I'm in a panic, I got to get rid of this thing as quick as I can before someone hits me. And I think that, like you said, I think if more teams can cause that kind of disruption for him, I think it's going to be a lot easier to capitalize and take advantage.
Before the game, I was reading the Cardinals were saying this was going to be a game where they were trying to feed the ball to Marvin Harrison, and they did. They held true to their words. He had 12 targets in this game, but he ended up with 5 for 60. But this was a Trey McBride game, and he has emerged as probably one of the more reliable targets for Kyler Murray, over Marvin Harrison Jr., who every time I watch them, they very much feel out of sync. And I feel like they're still trying to find that connection. And it's clicked in some games, but it just going back to that first game where they didn't look Marvin Harrison's way at all. And now what I'm worried about with this Cardinals team is they're going to try and start forcing him the ball. And I mean, Murray had 2 interceptions in this game, and I feel like some of that was a result of them trying to force Marvin Harrison the ball. That could be what ends up costing the Cardinals down the stretch.
No, absolutely. I think so too. I think, if you have those kind of, like you're trying to force the ball, anything like that, those little things, that's what's going to cost you.
Yeah.
I think they need to keep, Kyler needs to keep finding, keep finding a guy like McBride who really has come up and made those plays for him, and he's really started to shine for sure to keep this successful and to have a chance. They're only, they're right. They could be right there in the mix depending on how the rest of the season goes, man.
Yeah, and I mean that division is very tight. They're 6-6 right now, and they got Seattle next week in a pretty big division game.
I mean, it's a must win if you're actually it's a must win for either. You win that. If you win that, you probably get almost win the division.
Yeah, that's probably going to present the clearest path to winning the division. We'll keep an eye on that one. That Arizona Seattle game is a very interesting one this week. The big game this past week was the Ravens and the Eagles. The Eagles traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And man, I feel like this was a game that I looked at and I said this really showed how much of a class of their own the Eagles are.
Man, the Eagles are, again, we weren't sure coming into this season, real shaky, especially the way they ended last season. But again, they're that silent killer. Again, they're also 10-2, and until I feel like very recently, no one's been talking about it. Yeah, we've been talking about Saquon and his highlights and how cool it is to watch him jump over guys and make the Giants look stupider than they already did. But I mean, now as a team, they are clicking this. I think earlier, we thought this division may go to the Commanders, but I mean, the Eagles have really come into this, and I mean, what a game they had. They just, again, they showed it that hand the ball to Saquon. We follow where Saquon goes. That's like you've said it all season. I think you said it also on your post. Like again, between Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley, like those are your top MVP picks, man.
I don't know how they aren't, and especially with the way Saquon's been playing. I believe he is on. I saw something today. I believe he is on pace to break Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record. I will say this: if he does that, and Barkley does not get the MVP, I will go through the roof. Like that just goes to show me it is a quarterback's award, more so than I already believed it was. But I want to talk about a little bit more about Jalen Hurts. He didn't. This was an interesting game because it felt like he didn't need to be the Jalen Hurts we have seen in the past for them to win this game, and this was against a very good team. He only had 118 yards passing, but he had a touchdown with it as well.
Yeah, I think Jalen's really showing that like he doesn't have to, just play the way Jalen does. Make the plays when you need to, but also, be ready to run that thing. And you'll be ready to hand it off. Don't be selfish. Make sure where your plays are going. He doesn't have to be a selfish quarterback. He knows what's happening. He doesn't need to throw, 475 yards. He doesn't need to be that in this scheme and the way Sirianni's really chosen to play this. And man, I think he's figured it out and how they're going to keep winning. And man, as long as he, continues his path, I don't know what's going to happen, man. I think it's going to be very, very scary up there at the top of the division.
Yeah, and this wasn't a bad game by the Ravens or by Lamar Jackson. He had 237 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I will say this, Derrick Henry got limited to under 100 yards again. His receiver, he was hitting his receivers. The Baltimore defense does still kind of keep getting put under a magnifying glass. especially their pass defense. I believe they're one of the bottom. They're one of the bottom pass defenses in the league. Jacksonville was the worst, but I believe Baltimore is getting down there, which is strange because Baltimore is usually known for defense instead of offense. I think they're going to be fine. I don't see them overcoming Pittsburgh, but they're going to be one of the tougher wild cards in the league.
I think Baltimore really needs to figure out their the field goal kicking game because Justin Tucker is not doing it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too is Justin Tucker has disappeared. I mean that might as well be an imposter out there kicking for the Ravens.
Mhm.
Justin Tucker has disappeared, and I believe he signed a big contract with them. Although kickers' contracts usually don't factor much into the salary cap,
Yeah.
but I've never seen. I don't think I've. This is probably one of the bigger falls off a cliff I think I've ever seen, especially for a kicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I think again, people are the memes are great of Justin Tucker right now, but like if you're Baltimore, you're like, this is a guy who we could who can we depended on, again. To him, I know he missed a couple. Like you have to make those, and if you don't have a reliable kicker, like you got to figure something out.
one of my favorite memes that I saw was like, how much do you miss me?" And the guy just posted a kicker of Justin Tucker. Like, yes, let's go.
Yep,
But
that's it.
I mean, I think they said he cost them like 22 points,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe the cumulative it was either in I believe the cumulative amount that the Ravens have lost by was like 22 points.
Oh
And their
man.
losses. Like it was one of those wild stats where it just showed you how bad Justin Tucker has been and how pivotal his misses have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that remains to be seen. That'll be. I think if that's a good after season watch for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke of it earlier. This is going to be more on you, and I know you don't probably want to revisit it, but
Oh man.
Bills Niners in the snow. It started snowing hard when the game started,
Mm-hmm.
and both teams were pretty much prepared for a clear field, but the Bills handled it better.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, the Bills handled it better. Again, this game also showed what, we didn't talk about it last week because we weren't here. But again, we failed so hard against Green Bay and we just continued to defensively and we couldn't get anything offensively going. So again, I understand that half the team is out and now McCaffrey's out. Mason's like everyone's at this point, just put the team on IR and we'll call it a season. It's a rough game, but again, their run game, we couldn't stop it. They made huge runs on us. We didn't want to tackle in the snow. But again, Josh Allen making plays. Again, he caught his own touchdown pass and ran it in. That whole interaction between him and Amari of like, I thought you wanted the ball since you were down there. Here, take it. Like,
I've got a bone to pick with that play, though. I got a little bit of a bone to pick. If you go back and watch it, because I was sitting there thinking, shouldn't his forward progress be stopped?
Oh,
I thought he was stopped.
It could have. I mean, he was still moving his feet until he turns around, but like
he wasn't going anywhere. They had him. That's debatable.
It's super debatable. I thought it was too, but hey, there wasn't a whistle, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
I not only I think it showed that the Bills' dominance, but also showed how, again, you look at that. There are a couple shots of you look at Kyle Shanahan and you see him on the sideline, and he looks like he would rather be anywhere else in the world than coaching a football team right now. Oh, yeah. I think the Niners came in with this gusto and they got real humbled this season. Brock Purdy hasn't looked good in the last 2 games. It's been a rough thing. The downturn. Everything goes up. Everything has to come down eventually, and it just came down super hard on us going from Super Bowl go playing in the Super Bowl to we're not even going to make the playoffs at this point.
No, I don't think the Niners are going to make the playoffs either.
Yeah.
I mean, even without those injuries, it's like you said, they came in with all this gusto off of NFC Championship and everything like that. We'll get a little bit more into it later, but like, do you feel like the this could have been where the Niners ended up anyway without some of the injuries?
Man, I don't know, because when you see the stats when everyone was there, we played great. But it seemed if the entire Avengers team wasn't assembled, if one guy's out, whether it be Ayuk or Samuel or McCaffrey, we couldn't really figure out a way to consistently get to keep it stepped up and shown. And so I think it was just all the pieces parts are really good, but when one cog's out, the entire machine doesn't know how to run.
I th-
And
I think that's kind of a case with most Shanahan defense or offenses, and I believe you're seeing some people have been talking about like Shanahan offenses are down this year because
Mhm.
teams are adjusting to it or guys that are like key pieces. We saw it with the Texans when it was Joe Mixon or Nico Collins going down. They could not get anything going. And that's what I want to watch is how the Shanahan offenses are kind of on maybe on a downward on a valley right now as far as the season goes. Well, are you ready to get on the roller coaster? Because last night, oh my
Oh man,
god,
what a game!
that
What
was
a game!
that was probably one of the most. I'll give the backstory on this. Um, I was in our fantasy league. I was ahead by like 3 points. All I needed was like a touchdown, and the Broncos to not really score any points for this game. And boy, they decided to give me and the guy I was playing a heart attack with the Browns.
Mhm.
This best way I've seen this described was this was the full Jameis Winston experience.
Oh, it was
Um,
beautiful to watch this man throw 6 touchdowns, 500 yards. Like, I can't believe it. It's just incredible.
and
And to
lose.
still, yeah, and to still have just such a positive attitude after the game. Like,
And
man, I don't want Jameis Winston on my team, but man, I
well,
hope he keeps, again, I hope he
I'll,
keeps on somebody's
I,
team.
I'll be the stick in the mud here, man. I'm getting tired of the stick. Like
Man.
I'm getting tired of Jameis Winston trying and failing to put together some kind of epic sports movie speech, and every camera has to be there and be on him. Like, okay, it was funny the first couple of times, but now I'm sitting there like, this is becoming. I mean, what is this? Ernest goes play football? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's as far I will like I'll give him credit for this. He's a way better quarterback than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and again, at least if you're going to a Browns game, you're not going to win it, but it's sure going to be hella fun watching Jameis Winston do something, make them highlights, trying to get people to jump off sides like that.
Yeah, he just screams it.
I'm like, man, again, yeah, it's a sideshow, but what? I mean, you're not getting anything else in Cleveland, so you might as well have some fun with it at this point because what playoff team you thought you could have had at the beginning of the season's long gone.
Oh
So
yeah.
at least we're gonna make it a fun circus and throw 500 yards in a game.
Screw it. We'll just play NFL Blitz. Like it's
I
just
mean, at this point, hey, but you know what? I mean, look at the Broncos. They still, Bo Nix had a good game, and they still got ahead, and they won it. So
well, I mean, you say that. He did have 300 yards. He did make some really good plays. He
mhm.
had he had two interceptions and a touchdown though. No
Yeah.
sacks. But I mean, I feel like if I were to if we're scoring, if this is going to be Bo Nix versus Jaden Daniels each and every week for the rookie of the year, chalk this one up to Jaden Daniels
Mhm.
for this week because he had a way better game than Bo Nix did.
Yeah.
But the Broncos defense stepped up, even though they allowed a ton of yards. He had two receivers over 100 yards. The touchdown to Marvin Mims, that 93-yard touchdown was just God, man. Like that,
Mhm.
you talk about turning on the Jets. Um, I mean, it's just you let Jameis Winston be Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
He's gonna go out there. Hey, you know what? I think Jameis Winston should go for the Brett Favre record. Throw eight interceptions and win the game. Let's see how that happens. if that can
I
happen.
mean, he's the first quarterback to have a 30-30 season.
Yep.
You know,
30 points, I
like
told you. I
so.
mean, it's just what, gosh, man, that was stressful. And then that last pick six, I almost, yeah, yeah, that was stressful. Dropped me to 7-6 on the season for fantasy. That'll do it for the reactions, guys. Be sure to check out our sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock for all your tech repair needs. If you need a new gaming console, if you need a new laptop, PC, tablet, cell phone, Gabe's going to get you hooked up at the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. I know this is running long, man. That first opening topic was boy, that's hot, But right now it's time for 3 up and 3 down. Pick 3 players or teams or whatever I want to pick that are going to be up on the up list this week. We want to highlight, and then we go 3 down. So first up, I know he's in a losing effort, but I want to highlight Caleb Williams, man, because he played his ass off, and he has for the last couple weeks. It feels and there are times it feels like he has been held back by coaching all year.
Yeah, I think it really showed, again, when they made the coaching changes that they did, you start to see his game get better. You start to see him play better, be more successful. And I think he's really starting to figure this out. It's always, I can't imagine being a rookie quarterback starting in this league. I can't imagine, even you have guys like Tom Brady who are like, I just don't know. He's like, I don't know how they're doing it. You should have the time to learn from veteran quarterbacks, from systems, to learn how it is. But when you get thrown in there, man, talk about trial by fire. And I think these last few weeks he's really shown that, hey, he has the potential if he has the right coaching and the right scheme behind him. Yeah, I think he had a great week this week.
Yeah, no, there's a trend to this up list, by the way. I want to see if you pick up on it. Yeah, even in a losing effort, Caleb Williams, he's still, again, he's out there. You see that he's starting to get it. Speaking of another quarterback that is starting to get it, Bryce Young, man, he's kind of turned it on in the last couple weeks. Looked really good in the Chiefs game since he got benched and came back in. Looked really good in the Chiefs game. And then came back, played a really great game last week against the Bucs. Made probably a really clutch throw. And this was just hey, we've got more talent on one side of the ball than you do when it came down to overtime. And I thought Bryce Young, I think people are really starting to see the Bryce Young we wanted them to see, or that they wanted him to. The Panthers wanted to see when they drafted him last year.
Yeah, again, maybe getting benched and that kind of reset everything for him. Them taking, that maybe that's all he needed to reset himself and trying to figure out like, hey, what can I do to get better in this league and to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and they're going to have a high draft pick this year, and I want to see what they use it on and how they try to surround Bryce Young now that it looks like he's starting to pick things up a little bit better. Getting Adam Thielen back was good for him as well. But I want to see what they do in the offseason. And I want to see if they can pick up a win against a better team than them as we go down the stretch. One of the teams I feel like they might be able to get, they do have Dallas coming up. And this is a time where they could probably pounce on Dallas and get Bryce Young a good showing. Top of the mountain this week, Jerry Jeudy, man. He went in and he took over that game. He is this week's top of the mountain. 235 yards, man. You can't beat it. I'm really surprised he only had 1 touchdown.
Yeah, honestly, with as much as going, and the way that we were handing out touchdowns in that game to everybody, it is kind of surprising on how he only got 1. But yeah, 235 yards. My God,
it was a Cyber Monday touchdown deal. Like it was, everyone was getting touchdowns. For Jerry Jeudy, he was wanting the yards. Like he was wanting that special on the yards. But yeah, 9 catches. That was probably the best game I've seen Jerry Jeudy play. Whether he was a Bronco or a Brown, and he went into Denver and made sure that they knew about it. Like he was very loud in his obnoxious, or I want to say obnoxious, defiance of the Denver Broncos. Did you catch on to the trend for the up list this week?
I did not.
everyone on the up list was part of a losing team.
Oh, they were part of a losing team. You are right.
Everyone on the up list was part of a losing team.
You always got to look for the positive somewhere. I like it.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And I mean, you can only highlight like the better teams so many times.
Mhm.
We went 3 up. We're going to go 3 down. First up on the down list is the Bengals defense. 520 yards, 44 points allowed. But it's time for them to be on here. I think I saw something that the Bengals have scored in their last 4 games 99 points. They're 0-4. And it's because of the defense. Because Joe Burrow is playing at an MVP level.
I mean,
And
what, Joe Burr had what, plus 300 yards, I think, something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, you had the comeback against the Chargers that got blown because of the defense. You've had all these games that Joe Burrow has just absolutely gone out there and put the team on his back. Him and Jamar Chase both. And you had guys like Chase Brown contributing, and the defense just could not hold up. They hung with that. The offenses in that game traded blows at every turn. And time again, what it came down to was the Steelers had, we knew they had a great defense, but they had a better defense than Cincy on that day. And
I think again, to be able to trade like they did, again, how the Bengals are still 4-8 is going to be just a travesty on how good Burrow has played this. It's just not a reflection. Sometimes you have great quarterbacks on just not great teams.
And he's been healthy.
Yeah.
And he's been healthy. So it hasn't been like Joe Burrow's gone down and just, been out for several weeks. No, Burrow's been healthy and playing in every game. And I believe he's one of the leaders, top 5 or so in passing. Definitely top 10. But it's just if the Bengals if the record was flipped, he'd be an MVP candidate.
Yeah, it feels like Stafford when he was playing with Detroit. You have a great quarterback. You have you have Calvin Johnson. You have these great players, just not on a good team. And it's hopefully maybe they can make some adjustments somewhere to make it better. But yeah, you hate to see these guys who are star caliber just not on a very good team right now.
T. Higgins is a free agent next year. Jamar Chase, they're working on a contract for him. I really like that rookie running back that they have, Chase Brown. He's come on. Don't know if he's like a full replacement for Joe Mixon, but he has definitely stepped up. Yoshivas is good. The same problem that's been there with the Cincinnati Bengals for a long time, and the offensive line still persisting. But this defense is Trey Hendrickson and a bunch of dudes. That's it. Next up on the down list, Kirk Cousins, man. 4 interceptions, and the Falcons are really teetering. They can't seem to really get the same kind of traction that they had underneath them in the beginning of the year. But Kirk Cousins has gone down so much so that I know it's just the rumor mill, and I know it's just like some of those you take with a grain of salt. But you start to see the rumor mill churn a little bit, and they're a little bit. Where there's smoke, there's a little bit of fire sometimes. But people are saying, "Hey, Kirk Cousins could be traded."
Yeah, I mean it's we'll see how this back half of games plays out. But at 6-6, they're leading the South, at 6-6, but they're on a 3-game losing streak. It's a tough, it's a weird time to be this team and Kirk Cousins and what could happen with them. Do you go with the quarterback you drafted and or do you stick with the quarterback you paid a lot of money to?
That 4-1 division record is really helping them out because the Bucs are right there on their heels. They're the only team with a winning streak right now in the division, and the Falcons are hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
But Bijan Robinson is playing his butt off. Kyle Pitts didn't have anything in that game. I was sitting there with Nolan at Buffalo's on Sunday, and he's like, "Why are they just not using Kyle Pitts at all?" And I mean, he might be a guy that I would say requests a trade in the offseason too, because he's just not been used in that system. This week's Factory of Sadness goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, they had a chance to do something epic.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. That last drive, it would have been one of the best sports stories that you would have had.
Again, when you know it's going to be good when you see sad Kermit on the side. When you see a sad Kermit on the sidelines, just lean back, just eating it up. You're like, yeah, they're making this drive, and then just a bad communication between your quarterback and your line, and what a weird call, maybe whatever the
Yeah,
refs want
it was.
whatever the refs want to call it.
Yeah, that.
Seems real shaky, and then the Chiefs hang on for another one. That's
That's
all. That's all they've done is hang on. I've never.
yeah,
It's a why. It's a be 11-1 and to just not have a game where you dominated.
yeah. I've
There's
not
not a
seen that out of
game.
the Chiefs this year.
Absolutely not.
But that end of the game communication. I again, like I said, if Eberfluss hadn't gotten fired, I feel
Mhm.
like this would be the Chicago Bears spot. But that was a close second to what the Bears did at the end of that game.
Well, especially
And
to see both the games to finish that same, in not exactly the same way, but kind of the same way of just a bad communication. He gets up there, he's calling for a hurry up. The guard's like, "Hey, we're fucking ready to go. Snap the ball." Okay, so the center snaps, and then, "Oh, I'm not ready yet." Like just a awful communication, and then you know the
it was
the
one of those
call.
technicality. It was one of those technicality rules. Like it was
Mhm.
one of those weird technicality rules where it was like, I mean, this would have been a dead ball foul if this guy had been here, and it was
Yeah,
weird and shaky. But yeah, that just another nail in a coffin, in a bad season for the Las Vegas Raiders. I
man.
don't think Antonio Pierce. I think he's going to be a Black Monday casualty. Like I think there's no way they can keep him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you give him another shot, but I mean, he's gonna have to do a lot of, I don't know. I mean,
I
a
don't know if
lot of
he's the
sweet
guy you
talking,
want to trust Shadur Sanders to.
right? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if
I
he's
don't
the guy
know.
you want to trust Shadur Sanders to. That's all I'm saying. That'll do it for 3 Up, 3 Down. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Hey, sound off in the comments, guys. Let us know. Rep your team. Shout out if you disagree with us. Let us know about it. If you have if you have anything to say, we want to hear you. We want to hear from the fans.
Mhm.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're still trying to get to 50 on Twitch. We want to get to that affiliate status because we want some exclusive extra point content for you guys. We're still going to be here every Tuesday night at 8:30 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And we want to do things like giveaways and stuff like that for Twitch users too. But we got to get to that status over on Twitch, and we got to keep turning the YouTube stuff. So please like, share, subscribe, let everybody know about us. We want to be seen by as many people as we can. We thank each and every one of you every week for joining us. But sound off, especially on this next segment, buy or sell. This one is for you, Andy. This one I got for you. I want to see what you think about it. First up on buy or sell, 49ers Super Bowl window is closed.
Oh, beyond close. It's shut down. It's out of here, man. We're done.
We're done.
Like, I just think I still, I'm buying it for sure. I just don't know. It seems like the whole team has between the injuries and these rough losses, even the losses, these leads that we had that we blew in the fourth quarter against divisional rivals. We don't have any advantage in the division. We just it's sad. It's hard to go out there. We don't have a chance to win the division. We're so far back to even get a wild card. We don't have a shot. And even if somehow we did, we're not healthy enough to make it.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to happen.
This one's tough for me because of the injuries, and just because of what the Niners, were last year.
Mhm.
Injuries suck. Injuries will take down an injuries put an asterisk on the season, I think almost. But I am going to buy it because I
Mhm.
feel like even healthy, you have one guy go down and the whole team falls apart. That's not an injury issue. That is a makeup of the team and roster building issue, in my opinion. And don't get me
Absolutely.
wrong, Jordan Mason has come in and been awesome in the
Mhm.
games that he's played. Jordan Mason has been a great backup to Christian McCaffrey,
But now
who,
he's out too.
yeah, he's out too. And
So
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've seen the Madden curse slap a player, much less a team, as hard as the Madden curse did this year. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm gonna buy that.
Even bigger than the offense, man. Our defense has nothing. Our defense has, maybe now that Salah's not working, he can come back and bring back that scary defense he'd built up again. But we don't. Again, with injuries, the offense is shut down, but we don't have a defense right now. It's bad. It's rough right now for sure to see the fall as hard as it has been this back half for sure.
That Lenny Kravitz song on Madden is catchy though.
It is
all the time. Next up on buy or sell, Cliff Kingsbury to the Bears as their next head coach. He has been a guy that has been floated as a head coaching candidate next year, and the Bears, I think, are going to be one of the more attractive jobs. He has worked with Caleb Williams before, back at USC, and not going to lie, it feels like a pretty natural fit for Cliff Kingsbury.
I mean, I think I think he's kind of shown, he had the year in Arizona, and then obviously now coming to play, coming to be a part of the Commanders organization. I think, I'm going to buy it. I could definitely see it happening. Again, there's going to be a lot of shakeup between, all the head coaching spots that are going to happen. Once the season's over, there's going to be a ton of openings. There's going to be a ton of whirlwind of coaches going everywhere. So, but to see him go to the Bears, I could definitely see that for sure.
I'm going to sell.
Okay.
Because I think there is going to be a bigger job open. I think if he continues on the path that he's going to, and I think he's shown a bit more maturity in his play calling, where it's not, he's not running that strict college air raid offense that he has before. I think Jerry's going to want him. I think Jerry could throw us a bit of a curveball, and if he's available, Jerry's going to want him. And Dan Quinn's got good ties with the Cowboys organization. It's not like he left there on bad terms. But I think Jerry's going to see what he's done with Jaden Daniels and be like, maybe he can do it with Dak and get Dak's arm going again. I think there's going to be teams crawling all over themselves to get Cliff Kingsbury and Ben Johnson this year.
I think teams are going to be murdering each other for Ben Johnson for sure.
Speaking of Ben Johnson, you had this one. Can the Lions stay atop the AFC or the NFC? The Eagles are right there on their heels, man, and the Lions have had some close calls over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think with it's going to be hard. I think with the Lions, the rest of their schedule isn't the easiest coming in. I think they have Green Bay, and then they have Buffalo. And then they finish up with the Vikings. So it's, these next two games are gonna be it. And you have a hot Eagles team, like you said, on their heels, fighting for it. Coming out of the ashes of the collapse that was their season last year. I'm gonna buy, but man, it's gonna be a race to the top of the NFC.
It's gonna be close, and they slip up against one of these teams, and the Eagles are right there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, though. Here's what I like about this team is they are so good at facing adversity. Mm-hmm. They're so good at overcoming adversity. Dan Campbell has these guys prepared. Now, I think that the injuries in the secondary that they've kind of accrued are going to play a factor. Especially in this Packers game, but they have definitely playing only 3 games outdoors has helped, I think. But this is going to be, they can't have another Jared Goff 5 interception game. They just cannot have that. But they know how to win, whether it's ugly, whether it's a blowout, whether it's in a unique way with their special teams. They know how to win. So I'm going to buy them staying atop the NFC. And I think they're gonna enjoy. I think that first round bye is gonna be very beneficial to them.
For me, I think it's going to be tough because the Eagles, I think, have probably the easier last 5 games than the Lions do, but it's still going to be, it's still going to be a tough one to for this battle for that number 1 seed.
That might be my NFC Championship game. Is Lions Eagles.
Oh man,
Whoa.
that would be a really good game.
Yeah,
That'd be a really good game.
that's kick your feet up and get ready to go type of XD right there. This one we kind of combined two of our questions on it. Buy or sell, the Chiefs could lose the number 1 seed in the AFC.
I think I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna buy real hard. I mean, again, the next few teams they have the Chargers, they have Pittsburgh, they have the Texans, and
Those could very easily be 3 losses.
And then they even have even Denver, and they barely beat Denver last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just again, if they've been playing like the Eagles or the Lions and really gritting it out and like, yeah, we got this. Every game has been a toe over the line. We happen to block a field goal. Center snap the ball too early. Like these are some of the examples of the Chiefs holding on to the win. They have not been a dominant team to go out here and hold this number 1 seed. I just don't think they can. I think, and especially these last few games, you see Mahomes, man, he looks tired. He looks beat up. I just don't know how much they can keep going with this.
I know 2 of those teams that they play, I believe, are top 10 defenses. And the offensive line of this Chiefs team has been atrocious at the tackles. And I look at it from a Texans perspective as far as they being a team that has the most QB pressures in the league. Those tackles are going to have to go up against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Oh, guess what? Next week you got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Denver, Benito, and those guys, you saw what they just did to Jameis Winston and the big plays that they were able to come up with. And let's face it, Mahomes has not been like at his best this year. Oh, and then you got to go and play the Steelers, who have a really good defense in there. That's TJ Watt, that's Highsmith, that's Joey Porter and Patrick Queen on that side, on one side of the ball. And then you got a resurgent Russell Wilson with Najee Harris on one side of the ball and George Pickens. And the thing is, you talked about Mahomes looking tired on one side of the ball. The defense has started to look like they were wearing down a bit too, because they looked gassed at the end of that Raiders game. And this is a gauntlet. They're part of those teams that play, they got at least 2 games in 7 days. They got a 4-day rest in between the Texans game, and then they play on Christmas. But they're part of that squad of teams that plays like 3 games in 11 days. And we're, a lot of talk, I feel like, at least around Texan circles, has been, okay, this is going to be the real test of this team. This is going to be a real test of who the Chiefs really are. I saw something the other day. It was a chart of some of the worst point differentials between 11-1 teams, and the Chiefs have the worst point differential, I believe, of all time. And amongst 11-1 teams, I'm looking for their point differentials right now. I'm looking at how much, they're not even anywhere close, I believe, to top 10 offense. But I'm looking at their points per game, and Chiefs are about 24.1 yards a game. They're right above the Texans. And you've heard all year about the Texans' struggles in the second half, struggle to put up points. They've only broke 40 once. The Chiefs are right there in the same way. If I'm being honest, the teams in the way that the season is playing out between the Texans and the Chiefs have been very similar. And it's just the Chiefs have been on the other side of the coin.
Yeah, and I think again, my favorite fact after a season is, if you switched all the 1 possession games, and with the Chiefs, I think if you switch all the games that were 1 possession games to what they would have been, I think they're only 3-9.
Yeah.
So like
maybe even 3-10.
Yeah, something like that. Like if you see like, man, it's not like they're it's crazy what would have happened. What could have happened in any of these games. So
Looking
I just don't
looking
see
at
it, especially these again, Chargers, Texans, Steelers, those games. I don't know how they hold on.
I'm looking at this right now, and I'm sitting there going, there's a solid chance they could be 12. They could go from 11-1 to 12-5.
Yeah.
A solid chance.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, they may even go. They could even go 11-6 because you don't know what the Browns are going to give you. I
No, I
mean,
mean, if Jameis Winston has another 500-yard game, that's the thing, right? If he has another 500-yard game, the Chiefs aren't answering back to that kind of stuff.
no.
They're not trading punches this season. They're not going back and forth. It's a very much we're surviving. We cannot go into a shootout.
I think this is one of the weird points in the season that I haven't seen. I know he's going to break it in this next game. I haven't seen Mahomes above 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
And you usually see that around this point in the season. So
I think he's like 10th, I think, something like that in yards this season so far.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's leading the league in interceptions too. So I mean, it's definitely an odd year for the Chiefs. Credit to the coaching staff for you guys that want to credit them. Wink, wink. For the wins. We're going to go into our game previews this week. Lines that we have are presented by ESPN Bet. Guys, if you're going to gamble, do it responsibly. But we're going to give you the lines, over-unders, everything like that. We kick off the week with Thursday Night Football. Big game in the NFC North. Green Bay goes to Detroit for their second meeting. And Detroit, 3-point favorites in this game. The over-under is 51.5. This could end up being a shootout.
I think it could very much be a shootout. I think, I think also, it's, them playing in Detroit, is helpful for sure. But yeah, I think this game, the way Jordan Love's been playing right now, like, man, it's the Packers are no slouch. They're nothing to scoff at right now. So I think it could be a very high scoring, close game.
Not just Jordan Love, but I'm looking at the yards per game in the rush with the Green Bay Packers, and they're averaging 148.5 yards per game in the rush. And a lot of that has to do with the way Josh Jacobs has been playing, who has been an absolute beast. He's part of this trio of running backs that have switched teams and are leading the league in rushing right now. And they are breaking the mold of this, hey, NFL running backs are only good for 4 years or only peak for 4 years. Derrick Henry's got, 8? Josh Jacobs was more than 4. Saquon's got, 6 or 7, and multiple injuries. And these guys are absolutely tearing it apart. Josh Jacobs, I think, is going to play a huge role in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now, Green Bay is going off a 3-game win streak, and I think they're really going to take this into Detroit and try to take it to them because you're going to have to. You're going to have to. It's going to be kill or be killed because Detroit's is not going to take any prisoners.
These are the number 2 and 3 offenses total offenses in terms of yards per game. Only about 13 yards separates them in terms of yards per game between being the number 2 and number 3 offenses in the league. And so this is two heavyweights, man. Like this is going to be, if you want to be honest, Thursday Night Football has put on some bangers this season. I mean, you had 7 straight division games, and every game in Thursday Night Football has not been a dud this year.
I think Amazon, thanks these teams because after last season, they had to make a comeback to make it, make these Thursday night games worth coming to watch because they were not great for a while. But yeah, the Thursday night games have been some of the most exciting football games we've had. What a great way to start each week of football.
How have they not been on the up list yet? That's weird. Revealing our picks. You're going with the Lions. I got the Packers in this one. I think Josh Jacobs really could be the difference in this game. And the way that he is running the ball, I mean, as physical, but as elegant as you could be in terms of the way that they use him. He has been probably one of the most important pick. He's been the most important pickup that the Packers have gotten all season.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's going with Detroit. The Lions are playing at home with everything going. It's again, Seattle used to be real scary at home. Detroit's terrifying to go into, especially a Green Bay team they've already beat one time this season. So you have that up on them. It's just time to again. Dan Campbell's going to continue to push the pedal all the way down and take everyone's throat out as he passes them.
We move on to another divisional matchup. The roller coaster that is the Cleveland Browns goes to Pittsburgh. Last time these two teams met, it was on Thursday Night Football. It was in the snow. The Browns came away with the win, and they are kind of tricky for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers open as they are 6.5-point favorites. Over under is 43.5. I don't think we're getting 500 yards from Jameis Winston in this game.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think we're going to get that same. Again, who knows? Maybe again we saw them duke it out. Go blow for blow with the Bengals. So maybe they just want to have these large shootouts against teams from Ohio. I don't know, but I think the Steelers have been really getting it. Russell Wilson has looked great. It's who'd have thought that all he needed was a guy like Mike Tomlin to get the best out of him, and that's what Mike Tomlin needed. They found each other, love it. It took a little bit to get that in there, but once they have, man, this Steelers team is rocking and rolling.
I mean, it's kicking me in the delicates, so to speak, in a debate that I'm having in our group chat right now with Russell Wilson to see him be resurgent. But this is what the Steelers needed. I was wrong in the sense that Justin Fields was going to be better for the Steelers than Russell Wilson. But Najee Harris has been better. They just got to get George Pickens under control, this one thing that was baffling me. He got 2 unsportsmanlikes on Sunday and stayed in the game.
Yeah.
Which was weird. Again, that going back to what the refs are and aren't enforcing. But Villanova picks, we both got the Steelers in this one. They're just too much of a complete team, and they're going to be looking for revenge over that Thursday night game. Some big divisions. In fact, these are all divisional games that we are previewing except for one. Seattle goes to Arizona. Seattle at 7-5. Arizona at 6-6. This could be, like you said earlier, this could be the game that pretty much determines who's going to win this division. 2.5-point favorites go to Arizona, over under at 44.5. For me here, the question is going to be which Seattle team shows up. Because if you look at the first half of the Jets game, the bad Seattle team was showing up. And then they realized, oh, hey, we got good players on this team, and Geno Smith and DK Metcalf got going. But the Seahawks were very close to – they let the Jets hang around with them longer than they should have, but they were very close to letting the Jets come away with that game.
And, you've already – this is the second time you've played them in like 3 weeks. So this is a real close game, from the last one they just played that Seattle was able to win. And if you're able to win both, I think that really keeps the distance for Seattle to really hold on to this division if they can win it. Now, if they split this game and Arizona wins, man, then it's all up in the air in the West. Like again, you could still have the Rams come in and make a big play at it. It's a wild thing. But if Seattle does win, I think that really kind of keeps them, can keep the rest of the division at arm's length to hold on to it.
I think it goes a long way for the Cardinals, though, too. I know you said it kind of upends everything, but the Cardinals have been flirting with first place all year.
Oh, man.
And I like their defense. I think they've got a really good defense, and they've been solid. Jonathan Gannon has coached these guys really well. I know some people, we making fun of him a year ago for finger guns, but this has been a really well coached team, and this offense has looked better. Like we said, Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and James Conner. That's what this offense runs through. James Conner is still going, and he's still putting up big games. I just don't trust the Seahawks. I don't trust which Seahawks team is going to show up. I can't tell if this is going to be the game where Geno Smith takes over, or if this is going to be the game where Geno Smith turns back into a pumpkin. I think there's just too much inconsistency sometimes from the Seahawks, especially in these last few weeks. And I can't tell what the NFC West is anyway. Like I can't tell if this is good, bad. Is it the NFC West of old where a losing team wins the division? Like this NFC West has been so topsy turvy. But I think that's why we split this week. Is, I'm going with Arizona at home, and you've got the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think with again, Geno Smith, I think is over 3,000 yards. If the Geno Smith who can make these plays shows up, I think they're gonna be able to get both of these. And I think going into Arizona, with the win that they had, I think they're gonna kind of take advantage to win this division.
It's going to go a long way.
Mhm.
Sunday Night Football has another divisional matchup.
Yeah.
Big one for the Chiefs. Chargers go to Kansas City, going to Arrowhead, and probably what's going to be the cold. Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites. Over under at 42.5. Chargers, like I said, are a top 10 defense in the league in terms of yards per. They're flirting with the top 10 defense. In terms of yards per game. I think they're sitting just outside, but they're definitely one of the better defenses that the Chiefs have faced this year.
Yeah, I think with the pure lack of inconsistency with the Chiefs, in how worn down they are, I think the Chargers that are they're kind of getting some. I think they're won 4 of their last 5. Justin Herbert's really kind of showing out right now. I think they're starting to real click with Harbaugh's what he wants for him, and so I think they're going to be able to take advantage of this Chiefs defense, defense and offense that is tired at this point.
Yeah, you are looking at 4 of their last 5. And the only loss that they had was one possession game to the Ravens, where I think if J.K. Dobbins doesn't go down in that game, Chargers could have pulled that out. Now, that could be the X factor in this game, is the fact that J.K. Dobbins put on IR. I think the Chargers are keeping him rested for the playoffs. There's so many cool storylines in this game. It would have been Dobbins and Gus Andrews or whatever his name is. 2 big running backs for the Ravens coming back and to the team that kind of helped them get them started. Ravens are facing their old offensive coordinator and Greg Roman, and you've got Jim Harbaugh right there in it too. What I've liked is they haven't put what I've liked from the Chargers is they haven't have put Justin Herbert hasn't had to put on the cape and go be Superman. And I think taking that pressure off of him, now he might in this game. Don't get me wrong, he might have to in this game. But I think taking that pressure off of him has allowed him to play a little bit more loose. And this defense has gotten to the Chiefs in their last meeting earlier in the season. It was a 17-10 game. And the Chargers defense was frustrating the Chiefs. That was the game that they lost Rashee Rice.
Yep.
This game the Chargers have been, to me, the biggest threat that the Chiefs have faced within the division. Although some could argue it might be the Broncos, but I think that this is probably, I definitely think the Chiefs are going to have trouble with the defense in this game. You and I both got the Chargers in this one.
Yep. Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to come in there with a vengeance and try to look to capitalize on the holes of the leaking ship that is the Chiefs.
Yeah, and those leaks are starting to get a little bit bigger, I think, too. I know they got Pacheco back, but if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm very worried about this stretch run. And then we go to Monday Night Football, simulcast by the Simpsons. Cincinnati Bengals travel to Jerry World. They are 5-point road favorites. So the only road favorites in the highlighted games that we have this week. Since he's 4-8, Dallas has come back to be 5-7 after beating the Giants, after winning 2 in a row in the division. Those are some big games. Dallas is not out of it yet, surprisingly. The over-under is 49.5 on this one. Cooper Rush versus Joe Burrow. I mean,
yeah, I think I'm not trusting these Cowboys for sure to be effective. I mean, you beat the Giants at home. You beat the Giants. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
And the game turned after Dexter Lawrence went out.
and you're still 1-5 at home. You're
Yeah.
not great at home this season. If Burrow plays the way he has, and if their defense can hold a little bit, you know, that's what's gonna be the determining factor. Can the Cincinnati defense hold? I'm excited to see this. The Simpsons play this game. I'll probably watch a little bit of that. I thought
It's gonna be interesting.
the Toy Story one was kind of fun, last year. So I think the Simpsons one will be interesting too. But yeah, I think. I just don't know if the Cowboys are going to be good enough to outplay Joe Burrow.
I wonder how many LSU fans are going to travel to Jerry World.
Oh, probably
Not
a
Bengals
ton.
fans, LSU fans to just go
Mhm.
there and see Joe Burrow. I can just see that right now. They'll be like, "It's Dallas and Cincy. Why is the crowd purple?"
Very,
You know?
very yellow, very purple.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not. It's not. I don't think it's that terrible of a drive from
No,
Louisiana to
yeah,
Dallas. They can make that. I mean, they
yeah,
showed up from
absolutely.
Houston, so yeah. Jerry said that it's Bengals Cowboys. What's all this purple doing here? It's Joe Burrow, baby. We both got the Bengals in this one.
Mhm.
I think this is going to be highlight the stars for the Bengals. Remind everyone why Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow
Mhm.
is still Joe Burrow. Let Chase Brown go out and show you why he's been a very solid rookie running back. Even
Mhm.
guys like Yoshivas, T. Higgins is going to get some love. I think this might be a game where the Bengals defense looks better than ever than they actually are.
Sure.
But yeah, got the Bengals in this one.
Yep.
That'll do it for our game predictions. We are going to go to the extra picks brought to you by Prize Picks. If you don't know how Prize Picks works, basically you get on there, you take some players and pick whether or not they're going to go over or under the amount you pick. They actually have some great just kind of gimmies on there right now that are paying out multiples of what you put down. You could actually get a line going on there where you could bet $10 to win like 1,000. I think on some of them. They got some good multipliers on there right now. Take advantage of it. But basically, what you're going to do, these are the guys that I am picking this week over on Prize Picks. You can do two player lineups at a time, so you can put in multiple lineups and win right now. And it's not just for the NFL. You can go MLB, NBA, whatever sport that they got on there. You can go and bet on it on Prize Picks. First up on the extra picks, I got Jalen Hurts over 211 passing yards against the Carolina Panthers. That's probably a leap right there.
That's going to happen. I think he's going to light that. He's going to light them up a little bit, and not just throw for 18. I think they're really going to kind of push that out there, and get some things. I think it's a very good call.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a comeback down to earth game for Bryce Young. I think.
Yeah.
I really think it is. It's going to be a learning experience, but I think it's going to be a comeback down to earth. Starting on Thursday night for Josh Jacobs on the ground, over 67.5 rushing yards. I remember what they did to Joe Mixon, and the Lions can have a pretty stout rush defense, but I think once you get to the second level, Josh Jacobs could break one.
Yeah, I mean, we have said that second level for for Detroit is questionable. So if you can get there, you probably have a chance.
Last up, Darnell Mooney. I got him under 50.5 yards. He's been held to under 30 yards in his last two games in an offense that is starting to sputter in Atlanta. And I mean, Mooney's seen a little bit of a drop off, and I don't think that's going to stop.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not wrong. I mean, it's not, we're not quite abandoning the ship, but we're getting real close to hitting that iceberg and trying to find the lifeboats.
We are. Yeah, Atlanta's in some dire straits. But that'll do it for tonight, guys. Thank you all for joining us on the Extra Point. Another great episode. Again, this was a longer one than usual. Had a lot to talk about. But it's been 2 weeks. So thank you guys for joining us again. Shout out to our sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, for all your laptop, cell phone, tablet, gaming PC needs, and more. Go check out the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. And don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Get notified when we are going live. It's every Tuesday at 8:30. Go like us on all the socials. And we will definitely be back next Tuesday at 8:30 for the one and only Andrew Martinez. I am Ryan Justice, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye and good night.